Your kids can come, I guess, but make sure they understand this is about celebrating Ethan's achievements. We don't need any distractions. My sister Melanie's voice had that familiar edge to it, the one that made it clear my children were an afterthought, barely tolerated at these family gatherings. I gripped my phone tighter, staring at the framed photo on my kitchen wall. The four of us, my husband Doug, me, and our kids, Zach and Lily, 10 and 8, happy, genuine smiles, a stark contrast to the forced ones we wore at family events. They know how to behave, Mel. They always do. My voice was calm, practiced. I'd had this conversation too many times over the years. Well, last time Lily was asking Grandma all those questions during Ethan's speech about his science fair win, Mom couldn't hear properly. I bit back the truth that Grandma had actually been the one asking Lily questions, delighted by her granddaughter's rare proximity. Before Melanie had swooped in and redirected the conversation back to her son's project. "We'll be there," I said, ending the call before the familiar knot in my stomach could tighten any further. I stood in my kitchen, the late afternoon sun warming the worn tile floor beneath my feet. The house was quiet. Doug was picking the kids up from their after-school programs. The silence gave me space to think about what I'd just agreed to. Another Sunday at my parents' house, another afternoon of watching my children being treated as second-class family members. The pattern was always the same. We'd arrive, and for about 30 seconds, there would be the standard greetings. Then my sister's kids, Ethan 12 and Sophia 9, would make their entrance, and it was like a switch flipped. My parents, our aunts and uncles, even our family friends would gravitate toward them, exclaiming over every detail of their lives. Meanwhile, Zach and Lily would stand awkwardly on the periphery, occasionally trying to join conversations, only to be brushed aside with comments like, "Not now, we're talking about Sophia's dance recital," or, maybe later, "Ethan is telling us about his science project." Last Christmas had been the breaking point. Lily had worked for weeks on a handmade card for her grandparents, complete with a poem she'd written herself. When she tried to present it, my father had barely glanced at it before setting it aside with a distracted, "That's nice, honey. Hey, everyone, come see what Ethan got on his math test." I'd watched Lily's face fall, saw her quietly slip the card back into her pocket. Later that night, I found her sitting alone on our back porch, tearing the card into tiny pieces. "They don't really want us there, do they, Mom?" she'd asked, her voice small. I should have done something then. But I defaulted to the same response I always gave. "Of course they do, sweetie. They're just excited about your cousins right now." The sound of the front door opening jolted me from the memory. Doug's voice called out, "We're home," followed by the familiar rhythm of Zach and Lily's footsteps. Lily bounded into the kitchen first, her dark hair escaping from its ponytail, eyes bright with excitement. "Mom, I got picked to read my story for the whole school." She thrust a paper into my hands, a story titled My Family Adventures, with an A+ scrawled across the top. "That's amazing, honey." I hugged her tightly, feeling her small frame vibrate with pride. Zach followed more slowly, his expression guarded in a way that broke my heart. At 10, he was already learning to protect himself from disappointment. "I made the science team," he said with a careful shrug, as if preparing himself for his achievement to be overlooked. "Zach, that's wonderful." I pulled him into our hug, meeting Doug's eyes over the kids' heads. His expression mirrored my own, pride in our children, mixed with sadness at their growing wariness. That evening, as I helped Lily with her homework, she asked suddenly, "Are we going to Grandma and Grandpa's again this Sunday?" "Yes, for Uncle Nathan's birthday." I watched her face carefully. "Oh." She focused intently on her math worksheet. "Do I have to talk to Aunt Melanie?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean, sweetie?" Lily didn't look up. "Last time she told me to stop bothering everyone with my silly questions, but Grandma was asking me about school." "When did Aunt Melanie say that?" I kept my voice even, though anger flared hot in my chest. "When you were in the kitchen helping Grandma with the cake, she said Sophia was trying to tell everyone about her ballet and I was being disruptive." Lily's pencil pressed harder into the paper. "I wasn't being loud, Mom, I promise." That night, after the kids were asleep, I told Doug about Lily's confession. I knew something happened that day. She was so quiet on the ride home. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in the gesture. Jen, this has been going on for years. Your sister's kids get treated like royalty while ours get shoved aside. I know. I sank onto our bed, suddenly exhausted. Every time I've tried to address it, Melanie says I'm being oversensitive or competitive. And your parents? They don't see it, or don't want to. I thought about how my mother always defended Melanie. She's just protective of her children. You know how she is. As if that explained away the hurt inflicted on mine. So what do? Keep subjecting Zach and Lily to this treatment? I thought about Lily's proud face that afternoon, about Zach's careful announcement of making the science team, about how neither achievement would merit more than a passing acknowledgement from my family on Sunday, while Ethan and Sophia's every minor accomplishment would be celebrated as exceptional. No, I said, the decision crystallizing, we're not going. The next morning, I texted my mother, sorry, but we won't be able to make it to Nathan's birthday lunch. The kids have other commitments. Her response came almost immediately. What commitments? This is a family gathering. Everyone's expecting you. I stared at her message, feeling the familiar pressure to cave, to maintain the peace. But then I remembered Lily tearing up her Christmas card, Zach's guarded expression, the slow extinguishing of their natural enthusiasm around my family. We won't be there. We'll celebrate with Nathan another time. I pressed send before I could change my mind. Minutes later, my phone rang. Melanie. I let it go to voicemail, then listened as her voice filled my kitchen. Jennifer, what is this about not coming on Sunday? Mom's upset. Nathan's going to be disappointed. Is this because I asked you to make sure your kids behave? You're being ridiculous as usual. Call me back. I didn't. By Saturday, the pressure had intensified. My mother called twice, leaving increasingly guilt-laden messages. My father texted, something he rarely did. Your mother is very upset. You're ruining Nathan's birthday, as if my family's absence could single-handedly destroy an event. Doug and I took the kids hiking instead that Sunday to a state park an hour from our home. Away from cell reception, we spent the day exploring trails, picnicking by a stream, taking photos of Zach and Lily balanced on fallen logs, and pointing out interesting plants. Their faces were relaxed, their laughter genuine. When we returned home that evening, our voicemail was full. Messages from my mother, tearful and accusatory. I don't understand why you're doing this to the family. From Melanie, increasingly angry. You're being selfish and dramatic, as usual. From my father, brief and cutting. Your mother's been crying all day. I hope you're satisfied. The last message was from my brother Nathan. Hey Jen, missed you guys today. Not the same without you. Call me when you can. That small acknowledgement nearly broke my resolve. Nathan had always been different. Quieter than Melanie, less demanding of attention, more genuinely affectionate toward my children. He'd moved across the country for work years ago, which made his visits rare and precious. And I'd missed his birthday. I was about to call him when another text from Melanie arrived. Hope your little protest was worth hurting everyone. Mom's telling people you had family commitments, but everyone knows you're just being petty because your kids don't get enough attention. Grow up, Jennifer. Something snapped inside me. The years of watching my children being sidelined, of having my concerns dismissed, of being labeled as oversensitive for wanting equal treatment, it all crystallized into a cold, clear resolve. I forwarded Melanie's text to Nathan with a simple message. This is why we weren't there today. I'm sorry we missed you, but I can't keep subjecting Zach and Lily to this treatment. Nathan called within minutes. Has it always been this bad? He asked, his voice troubled. Worse, I said, and found myself pouring out years of accumulated slights and dismissals. The Christmas card incident, Lily being told to stop bothering people, Zach's science achievements going unacknowledged while Ethan's were celebrated repeatedly. I had no idea, Nathan said when I finally fell silent. I'm not there enough to see the patterns, I guess, but I've always thought your kids were great, smart, polite, interesting. They are, I said, throat tight, but they don't fit Melanie's narrative of her kids being exceptional and everyone else's being ordinary, and Mom and Dad have bought into it completely. What can I do? Nathan asked. Nothing. This is my battle to fight. I just couldn't do it anymore. Sit there and watch my kids trying so hard to be seen, only to be pushed aside. I get it. But you know this isn't going to blow over, right? Mel's already spinning it as you being jealous of her kids. Let her, I said, surprised by my own calm. I'm done playing along. The fallout was immediate and intense. My mother called the next day, her voice trembling with a mixture of hurt and indignation. How could you show Nathan that text? Now he's upset with Melanie. This family is falling apart, and it's because you're being so difficult. Mom, did you read what Melanie said about me? About my children? She was just upset because you ruined Nathan's birthday. She didn't mean it. She meant every word. And it's not the first time. My children have been treated as second-class family members for years, and I'm not allowing it anymore. That's ridiculous. We love all our grandchildren equally. Do you? When was the last time you asked Zach about his science projects? Or listened to Lily read one of her stories? When have you ever given them the same attention you lavish on Ethan and Sophia? The silence that followed told me she couldn't answer. Jennifer, she finally said, her voice hardening, I think you need to take some time to reflect on your attitude. When you're ready to apologize to Melanie and rejoin family gatherings with a better perspective, we'll welcome you back. The line went dead. I stood in my kitchen, phone in hand, a curious lightness spreading through me despite the confrontation. For the first time in years, I'd spoken the truth, refused to accept the family narrative that cast my children as less worthy of attention and love. The relief was profound. Doug found me there, still holding the phone. Your mom? He asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. Yes. She's given me an ultimatum. Apologize to Melanie and return to family gatherings with a better attitude, or stay away. And we're staying away. Over the next few weeks, the pressure intensified. Extended family members called, concerned about the family rift. Friends who knew both me and Melanie asked what was happening. My father sent terse texts about my mother's distress, implying I was being cruel by holding my ground. I answered them all the same way. My children deserve to be treated with the same love and respect as their cousins. Until that happens, we're taking a step back from family gatherings. Some understood. Others thought I was overreacting. I stopped caring about their opinions. Instead, I focused on Zach and Lily. We spent weekends exploring museums, parks, and bookstores. We had dinner with friends whose children actually played with mine, adults who asked them questions and listened to their answers. I watched as they gradually relaxed, became more confident in expressing themselves, stopped looking for approval that never came. A month after Nathan's birthday, he called to say he was coming to town again and wanted to see us. Just us. No big family gathering. Maybe we could meet somewhere for lunch? We met at a small restaurant near our home. Nathan hugged the kids with genuine affection, asked Zach about the science team, listened intently to Lily's explanation of her latest story. The children blossomed under his attention, talking animatedly, their natural enthusiasm restored. They're amazing, Jen, Nathan said quietly as we watched them explore the restaurant's small garden after our meal. I can't believe I never noticed what was happening. It's easy to miss if you're not looking for it. Melanie's good at making sure her kids are center stage. She always has been. Even when we were kids, she had to be the star. He hesitated. I've been thinking about what you told me, about how they treat Zach and Lily. I started noticing things in how Mom talks about all the grandkids. It's subtle, but it's there. Ethan and Sophia are always described in superlatives, while your kids are footnotes. I nodded, the hurt familiar, but less raw now. That's exactly it. And my kids have noticed. They don't want to go to family events anymore. They've stopped asking about their grandparents. Nathan was quiet for a moment. Mom called me yesterday. She wanted me to convince you to come to Thanksgiving. Said the family feels incomplete without you. And Melanie? Still thinks you're being dramatic. Says you've always been jealous of her perfect family. He made air quotes, rolling his eyes. I told Mom I understand why you're staying away. I think it shocked her that I wasn't automatically on their side. Thank you, I said, genuinely moved. It means a lot to have someone else see it. I've been thinking about Thanksgiving myself, he admitted, wondering if I want to sit through another family dinner where everyone fawns over Melanie's kids while ignoring yours. It doesn't sit right with me. That conversation with Nathan marked a turning point. For the first time, someone else in the family was questioning the dynamics I'd been struggling against for years, and it created ripples. The following week, my mother called, her tone less confrontational than before. Nathan says he might not come for Thanksgiving if things aren't resolved with you. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Jennifer, I don't understand why you're being so stubborn about this. Everyone misses you and the children. Do they? Or do they just feel uncomfortable because someone finally called out the family's treatment of my kids? That's not fair. We love Zach and Lily. Love isn't just words, Mom. It's actions. It's showing interest in their lives, celebrating their achievements, making them feel valued, not pushed aside every time Ethan or Sophia enters the room. She stopped, then continued more softly. Maybe we could talk about this in person. Just you and me. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our homes. For the first time in years, my mother listened as I described what it had been like to watch my children being marginalized at family gatherings. I showed her photos from Zach's science competition that no one had bothered to attend, Lily's award-winning story that had never been read by anyone in the family except Doug and me. I had no idea they were accomplishing all these things, my mother said, studying the photos with a troubled expression. Because no one ever asked. No one made space for them to share. She was quiet for a long time. I never meant to make them feel unimportant, she finally said. I know, but intention doesn't change the impact. What do you want me to do, Jennifer? I can't change the past. No, but you can change how things work going forward. All I want is for my kids to have the same chance to be seen and heard as their cousins, for their achievements to be acknowledged, for conversations at family gatherings to include them, not push them aside. And Melanie? She'll say I'm playing favorites if I suddenly start paying more attention to Zach and Lily. That's between you and Melanie. I'm just advocating for my children. My mother nodded slowly. I'll try, Jennifer. That's all I can promise. I'll try to see things differently. It wasn't a complete resolution, but it was a start. Thanksgiving arrived, and against my better judgment, we accepted my mother's invitation. Nathan had confirmed he would be there, which gave me some comfort. Still, as we pulled up to my parents' house, the familiar knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach. We don't have to stay if it gets bad, Doug reminded me, squeezing my hand. We can leave anytime. Zach looked up from the back seat, his expression serious. Are Ethan and Sophia going to be there? Yes, honey. Is Aunt Melanie going to tell us to be quiet again? My heart clenched. If anyone makes you feel bad in any way, you tell Dad or me immediately, okay? Both of you. Promise? They nodded solemnly. The house was already full when we arrived. My parents, Nathan, Melanie, and her husband Robert, their children, and a few aunts and uncles. The initial greetings were strained, especially with Melanie, who barely acknowledged us. But something was different. My mother made a point of asking Lily about school, listening attentively to her description of a project she was working on. My father, after a nudge from my mother, invited Zach to tell him about the science team. Nathan, bless him, had brought gifts for all 4 children, thoughtful ones that showed he'd been paying attention during our lunch conversation. For Zach, a book about famous scientific discoveries. For Lily, a beautiful journal with a note encouraging her to keep writing her stories. Ethan and Sophia received their gifts with excited thanks, then quickly returned to dominating the adults' attention. But now there was a difference. Nathan deliberately redirected conversations to include Zach and Lily, asking follow-up questions, showing genuine interest. Melanie noticed. I watched her expression darken as her children were, for once, not the sole focus. The tension built slowly, finally erupting as we gathered around the dinner table. Ethan was in the middle of describing his latest soccer game in excruciating detail when Lily quietly mentioned that her team had won their division championship. That's wonderful, Lily, my mother exclaimed, with what seemed like genuine enthusiasm. Tell us about the final game. Melanie's fork clattered against her plate. Mom, Ethan was talking. Lily can tell her story after he's finished. The table fell silent. I saw Lily shrink back, her moment of inclusion shattered. Before I could speak, Nathan did. Actually, Mel, Ethan's been talking for about 10 minutes. I think it's Lily's turn. Since when do we take turns talking at family dinners? Melanie snapped. Since always, Nathan replied calmly. That's how conversations work. Everyone gets a chance to speak. Well, Ethan has more interesting things to say. He's the team captain. And Lily's team won their championship, Nathan countered. I'd like to hear about that. The look Melanie gave him was venomous. Of course you would. You've obviously chosen sides in Jennifer's ridiculous crusade. There are no sides, Melanie, I said, keeping my voice level despite the anger building inside me. There are just children, 4 of them, who all deserve to be heard and valued. Oh, please, this has always been about you being jealous that my kids are more accomplished than yours. A hushed silence fell over the table. I felt Zach and Lily watching me, felt Doug's hand on my knee, steadying me. More accomplished? I repeated, my voice quiet but clear. By what measure exactly? By any measure. Ethan's the top student in his grade. Sophia's been scouted for the city ballet. What have your kids done that's so special? Made the science team? Written some little stories? Please. I saw the hurt flash across Zach and Lily's faces, saw them looking down at their plates to hide it. In that moment, all my careful restraint evaporated. Zach won the regional science fair last year. His project on sustainable energy was featured in the local newspaper. Lily's story won a statewide writing contest and was published in an anthology. But you wouldn't know any of that, would you? Because no one in this family except Nathan has ever bothered to ask. I stood up, placing my napkin beside my plate. Doug, kids, I think we've had enough family time for today. Jennifer, please, my mother began. No, Mom, I gave this a chance, but it's clear nothing has really changed. I won't subject my children to this anymore. I looked directly at Melanie. You can continue to believe your children are superior to mine. That's your choice, but I don't have to sit here and let you tear mine down to build yours up. As we gathered our coats, my father followed us to the door. Jennifer, you're overreacting. Melanie didn't mean. She meant exactly what she said, Dad. And it's not the first time. It's just the first time she said it out loud in front of everyone. I helped Lily with her coat, seeing the unshed tears in her eyes. The difference now is that I'm no longer pretending it's okay. Nathan joined us at the door, hugging each of us goodbye. I'll call you tomorrow, he said quietly. As we drove home in silence, I wondered if I'd just permanently fractured my family. But when I looked in the rearview mirror and saw Zach and Lily's expressions, hurt, yes, but also a new kind of resolve, I knew I'd done the right thing. I'm sorry about what happened, I told them. What Aunt Melanie said wasn't true. We know, Mom, Zach said, surprising me with his certainty. We know we're good at things, too. The best part was when you stood up for us, Lily added, her voice small but steady. No one's ever done that before. Those words broke something open inside me. Relief and grief mingled together. I should have done it long ago, I admitted. I'm sorry it took me so long. It's okay, Lily said, reaching forward to touch my shoulder. You did it now. The next few days brought a flurry of calls and texts. My mother alternating between apologies and pleas to reconsider, my father insisting I was being unfair to Melanie, Nathan offering quiet support. I responded to each with the same message. I was putting my children first, as I should have done years ago. Melanie didn't contact me at all, which was a relief. I needed space to think, to decide what kind of relationship, if any, I wanted with my sister going forward. A week after Thanksgiving, an unexpected visitor arrived at our door. My father, alone. Can we talk? He asked, his expression uncomfortable but determined. I let him in, watching as he took in the evidence of my children's accomplishments that filled our home. Zach's science fair ribbons displayed on a shelf, Lily's framed story certificate, photos of their activities and achievements. I never realized, he said, gesturing toward the display. Because you never looked, I replied, not unkindly. We sat at the kitchen table, where he struggled to find the right words. Your mother and I have been talking, a lot, about what you said at Thanksgiving, about how we've treated Zach and Lily over the years. I waited, not making it easier for him. I didn't see it, or didn't want to see it. Melanie has always been demanding. Since she was little, it was easier to give her what she wanted than to deal with the alternative. He sighed heavily. But that's not an excuse for neglecting your children. No, it's not. I want to do better, Jennifer. We both do. Your mother's been looking at those photos you showed her, asking questions about Zach and Lily's interests. She's ashamed. And Melanie? His expression clouded. That's more complicated. She feels attacked, says everyone's suddenly ganging up on her. Is that what's happening? Or is she just finally being held accountable? He didn't answer directly. Nathan's been talking to her too. He told her some hard truths about how she's been acting. I don't think she's ready to hear it yet, but it's a start. What are you asking for, Dad? A second chance. For your mother and me, at least. A chance to be better grandparents to Zach and Lily. I considered his request, weighing years of hurt against the possibility of change. That would be up to Zach and Lily. If they want to see you, we can arrange something, but just the four of you. No Melanie, no Ethan and Sophia. They need time to feel comfortable and valued in your presence without competition. He nodded, accepting the terms. Thank you. Over the next few months, a new pattern emerged. My parents began spending time with Zach and Lily separately from family gatherings, attending Zach's science competitions, listening to Lily read her stories, showing genuine interest in their lives. It was awkward at first, the weight of years of neglect hanging between them, but gradually, a more authentic relationship began to develop. Melanie remained distant, wounded pride, keeping her from acknowledging any wrongdoing. But Nathan became a more regular presence in our lives, visiting more frequently, becoming the uncle my children deserved. As for the larger family gatherings, we remained selective, attending only when the environment felt safe for Zach and Lily. Sometimes we left early, sometimes we declined altogether. I no longer felt obligated to subject my family to situations where they weren't valued. The change was reflected in my children. Watching them grow more confident, more willing to share their achievements, less anxious about family interactions, it confirmed that I'd made the right choice in finally standing up for them. A year after that disastrous Thanksgiving, we hosted a celebration at our home, Lily's 11th birthday. My parents came, bringing thoughtful gifts that showed they'd been paying attention to her interests. Nathan flew in for the weekend. A few friends from school joined us, along with some of our closest adult friends. Noticeably absent were Melanie and her family. She declined the invitation with a terse text, claiming prior commitments. As I watched Lily blow out her candles, surrounded by people who genuinely celebrated her, I felt no regret for the family fracture that had led to this moment. Sometimes healing required breaking first, breaking patterns, breaking silence, breaking the chains of obligation that kept us locked in toxic relationships. Later that evening, as Doug and I cleaned up after the party, he asked, "Do you ever think you and Melanie will reconcile?" I considered the question carefully. Maybe someday, if she can acknowledge what happened and commit to treating Zach and Lily with respect. But I'm not holding my breath. And you're okay with that? I looked out the window to our backyard, where Zach and Lily were still playing with their cousins from Doug's side of the family, running, laughing, completely at ease. Yes, I said, surprised by how true it felt. I'm very okay with that. The next morning, I found Lily arranging her birthday presents on her shelf. Among them was a small package that had arrived by mail the day before, from Melanie. Inside had been a gift card with a generic message. Lily had accepted it with a shrug, neither excited nor upset. "Mom?" she asked as I helped her organize her new books. "Do you think Aunt Melanie will ever like us?" The question broke my heart and strengthened my resolve simultaneously. "I don't know, honey, but what I do know is that her feelings about you don't define your worth. You and Zach are amazing kids, whether she sees that or not." Lily nodded, considering this. "I'm glad you didn't make us go to their house anymore. It wasn't fun pretending to be invisible. You'll never have to pretend that again, I promised. Not in this family." And as I looked at her, my beautiful, creative, resilient daughter, who was finally blooming in an environment where she was truly seen, I knew that the family we needed wasn't necessarily the one we were born into, but the one we chose to build. One where every member was valued, where achievements were celebrated equally, where no child was made to feel less worthy of attention and love. That was the victory, not in changing Melanie or even in changing my parents, but in changing the patterns I was willing to accept for my children, in showing them that they deserved better, in teaching them to recognize their own worth, even when others failed to see it. In the end, The most powerful revenge against those who had diminished us wasn't confrontation or retaliation. It was simply walking away and building something better, something real. Something that couldn't be shattered by someone else's need to be the center of attention. We had found our peace, and no one could take that away from us again.